I have but one question for you.
The first images feel like time capsules. The buzzing arcade glow, food court trays stacked beside jukeboxes, kids drifting under mall skylights with slushies and skateboard scuffs on their shoes. Back when Friday nights meant choosing between the mall and the movies, when entire audiences experienced films like Fast Times at Ridgemont High together in those wide velvet theater seats. The movie looked so carefree and sun-bleached, but nothing about its making was simple. Behind the iconic scenes lay a story of a director nearly being rejected, an actor eating vending machine snacks to stay in character, and a hidden heartbreak that unfolded while the cameras rolled. These are 25 facts about Fast Times at Ridgemont High that reveal what was really happening behind the surface. Fact number 1. Before a single camera rolled, Cameron Crowe walked the halls of a real high school pretending to be a teenager again. This wasn't for fun. It was a year of blending in, taking notes on kids who never knew they were inspiring the characters that would soon define a generation. That undercover work gave the script its quiet sting, the loneliness between the jokes, the small heartbreaks woven into the laughs, and the sense that everything you did at 16 felt like the center of the universe. Back when the best way to report on teen life was to simply live it, Crowe was providing the authenticity that would make the film a cultural touchstone. Fact number 2, the studio originally pushed for a male director, someone with what they called experience handling rowdy youth. They didn't realize that Amy Heckerling had already spent years absorbing teen culture like Radar, long before Fast Times at Ridgemont High existed. Executives hesitated until she screened a short film she had made. It was sharp, awkward, and painfully honest. This was before Hollywood acknowledged the power of the female gaze in teen stories, but they signed her the very next day. Unaware at the time, they had just hired one of the defining chroniclers of American adolescence. Fact number 3, before reinventing himself into a star, Nicolas Cage showed up to the set using his birth name, hoping to land a bigger role in the production. He wasn't chosen for the larger parts. Not because he lacked talent, but because he radiated something too intense, too unusual, too adult for the high school setting. Cast smaller, he seethed quietly on the sidelines. His transformation from being known as a Coppola kid to the independent Cage began with that quiet resentment, fueled by the feeling of being overlooked for the main event. Fact number 4, the mall scenes didn't just capture a location, they captured a world that barely exists now. Back when kids wandered for hours under neon signs, before every conversation happened on a tiny screen, the social life of a generation lived between the record shop and the photo booth. The food court fries tasted like battery acid and bliss, and the entire mall was adolescence compressed into one humming fluorescent box. It's a powerful cultural memory, proving that their era's communal gathering spaces mattered most. Fact number 5, Jennifer Jason Leigh didn't fake Stacy's shy, lived-in awkwardness. She worked for a few days in a real pizza shop before filming, absorbing the rhythm of a minimum wage job, wiping counters, apologizing to customers, and staring at the clock, waiting for her shift to end. That sense of small-scale exhaustion and uncertainty shows up in every one of her scenes, especially when she's trying too hard to look confident. It was an act of immersion, back when actors went to extraordinary lengths to ensure their performance felt authentic. Fact number 6, Sean Penn refused to break character for the entire shoot. Crew members would greet him by his real name and get silence in return. They'd say Spicoli, and he would instantly snap into a familiar grin. He carried a beat-up backpack filled with props that only he understood the purpose of, and at lunch, he ignored the catered food. He insisted on eating vending machine snacks, reasoning that it was exactly what Spicoli, the ultimate stoner surfer, would do. Fact number 7, on the very first day of shooting, one of the prop vans broke down in the middle of Ventura Boulevard. Nobody on set knew how to fix it, and instead of calling a tow truck, a modern luxury that would have halted the entire production, several of the actors jumped behind the van. They physically pushed the vehicle out of the flow of traffic, laughing, sweating, swearing, and fighting not to get hit by oncoming cars. It was chaotic and unglamorous, but that shared frantic effort set the tone for a film that would become famous for its easy California ease. Fact number 8, Judge Reinhold's pirate hat scene caused actual, unscripted embarrassment. Wearing that ridiculous, period-specific outfit under the hot lights, walking past a full crew who were all pretending not to stare, he nearly quit for the day. He felt exposed in a way that had nothing to do with the script's nudity. When the camera rolled, the deep blush on his face was real, capturing the universal feeling of public mortification that every teenager who saw the film instantly recognized. Fact number 9. The famous pool scene's slow-motion fantasy was not glamorous for Phoebe Cates. The pool water was icy, the walkway surrounding it was slippery, and the key lighting was harsh and blinding. She later joked that the hardest part of the scene wasn't the nudity that stunned audiences back when such things were still shocking to see in theaters, but pretending she wasn't freezing while walking in a straight line. It was a moment of true actor suffering to achieve an iconic piece of cinematic imagery. Fact number 10. One of the mall security guards threatened to shut production down after repeated crowd surges. Teenagers kept sneaking onto the closed set, hoping to glimpse actors they had seen hanging around the food court. This was before security fences and modern safety measures were standard. The guard grabbed a megaphone and yelled, "You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here." A phrase so era-appropriate and memorable that the crew adopted it as an inside joke for weeks after. Fact number 11. Forrest Whitaker was so soft-spoken off-camera that many extras on set didn't believe he was playing the school's feared football star, but once the cameras rolled, he moved with a kind of controlled fury that made the cafeteria scene entirely believable. Several extras flinched the first time he slammed his locker shut, convinced the powerful sound wasn't part of the take, proving the visceral authenticity of his performance. Fact number 12. A hallway fight between two background actors went physically wrong when one of them slipped on a piece of dropped food and slammed full force into a metal locker. The dent in the locker remained through the rest of filming, a tiny scar on the set that no one repaired. The crew kept it because it looked too authentic to touch, a small piece of unscripted chaos that became part of the final visual texture of the film. Fact number 13. One of the cars used in the notorious wrong school driving gag stalled out completely during filming. The actor behind the wheel, trying to stay in character while the disaster unfolded, kept mumbling excuses as crew members sprinted in to physically push the car out of the road. In the final cut, the panic on their faces feels like masterful acting, but it was pure, frantic, real-world anxiety. Fact number 14. The abortion clinic scene rattled Jennifer Jason Leigh deeply, not because of the content, but because the extras in the waiting room were older women who silently watched her with a mixture of sympathy and hard-won recognition. Leigh later said it was the first time she fully felt the deep emotional weight behind the simple, straightforward story she was telling. It was a moment of unscripted emotional authenticity that broke through the high school drama. Fact number 15. A genuine flirtation blossomed on set between two supporting actors who played classmates. Even though they barely spoke in the script itself, they spent their breaks sitting on the edge of the mall fountain, sharing sodas and stories, in a relationship that moved quickly. By the time the production wrapped, they had already moved in together. It didn't last long, but for one summer, they lived like characters in their own private teen movie, a quiet secret hidden behind the major plot lines everyone else remembers. Fact number 16. Sean Penn improvised several of his most famous Spicoli lines while half laughing between takes. Crew members later swore that some of the best moments in the film came from him muttering under his breath, rather than his formal, in front of the camera, performing. One boom operator nearly ruined a take because he doubled over laughing so hard at an unscripted comment that he dropped his equipment. Back when every moment of authenticity counted, the biggest comedic hits came from pure, off-the-cuff chaos. Fact number 17. The famous bedroom fantasy sequence was shot with the blinds open, a fact only revealed years later in crew archives. Several neighbors in nearby apartments watched from their windows as the scene unfolded, completely unaware they were witnessing a future cinematic landmark. The actor in the bathroom later joked that it was the most unintentional studio audience he'd ever performed for. It was a scene of intimate fantasy that was secretly being observed by the real world outside the soundstage. Fact number 18. A stunt involving a football tackling dummy went violently wrong when the dummy's internal frame snapped. Instead of bouncing, it collapsed like a bag of cement. Forrest Whitaker tripped over the collapsed weight during a rehearsal and skidded across the grass, scraping his arms badly. This was before modern safety protocols, before sets were governed by complex medical plans. He finished the scene anyway, bleeding under his jersey to complete the shot. Fact number 19. During a late-night classroom shoot, the school's power briefly cut out, plunging the set into total darkness. For a long moment, the cast sat in a pitch-black room, lit only by the red glow of the exit sign. Someone whispered a ghost story. Someone else screamed. When the lights finally came back on, everyone pretended nothing had happened, instantly falling back into the rhythm of the film. It was a fleeting, shared moment of real-world fear that nobody watching the film in 1982 knew existed. Fact number 20. Nicolas Cage felt deeply overlooked, already overshadowed by his famous family name, and now overshadowed by actors who had landed the bigger teen roles. He sometimes stayed on set, even on days he wasn't scheduled. He was there just to feel like he was part of something, a desperate need for belonging and recognition. His quiet resentment, the transformation from being the Coppola kid to the fiercely independent Cage, truly began with those long hours spent waiting on a set where he felt like a forgotten outsider. Fact number 21. Ray Walston, Mr. Hand, stayed gruff and guarded off camera too. He treated every single scene like a piece of theater, refusing to break his stern, uncompromising rhythm once he had found it. This was back when actors came from a different generation, maintaining a strict distance between their personal lives and their performance. Students who grew up watching the movie later said his performance felt like every strict, no-nonsense teacher they ever had rolled into one. Fact number 22. Jennifer Jason Leigh nearly fainted during a take in the locker room. The combination of heat, nerves, and emotional exhaustion, the true human cost of method acting, hit her mid-scene. She leaned against a row of lockers until the room stopped spinning, then immediately finished the shot without telling anyone what had happened. It was a physical and emotional push that revealed the intense effort required to make the on-screen struggle feel so real. Fact number 23. The field trip scene was absolute chaos. The bus overheated severely, the air conditioning failed completely, and several actors were packed inside while wearing clothes that trapped the intense California heat. Someone started a sing-along to distract everyone from the sweat dripping down the windows, a small act of tribal bonding. The final scene looks simple and effortless on screen, but it was filmed in what felt like a sauna. Fact number 24. A secret message, buried in plain sight, is hidden in the class roll sheet that Mr. Hand carries. The names scribbled on the sheet aren't students. They are the first names of crew members who had worked with the director on earlier projects. Most viewers never notice, but it remains a tiny secret love letter to the people behind the camera. It's a hidden gesture of loyalty to the film family, concealed within an otherwise ordinary prop. Fact number 25. Several members of the cast fell for each other, fought, made up, and broke up over the course of the production, just like the teenagers they were playing. One major relationship imploded during the final week, leaving both actors barely speaking to each other by the wrap party. Their on-screen chemistry, however, remains warm and effortless in the final product. Behind the closing credits lay a summer of tangled emotions that no one outside the cast ever saw, a quiet secret of heartbreak that defined the end of the shoot. Fast times at Ridgemont High wrapped the way youth itself slips away. Suddenly, quietly, without anyone realizing they'd captured something that would echo for decades. Before streaming carved up attention spans, before phones replaced notes passed in hallways, movies like this lived entire seasons inside people's heads. When you went to see it in a packed theater, back when films were communal events everyone experienced together, its authenticity became a shared cultural memory. Its messy heart, its sun-faded malls, its bruised feelings wrapped in jokes, all of it still feels like opening a time capsule sealed before the world changed shape. For the ones who sat in wide velvet seats watching those teenagers stumble through life under the California light, the memory hasn't dimmed. It just lingers like the last bell of a school day that never really ended.